Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of A Better Understanding, where today we're going to get to know Israel through music. To help us understand, we have two incredible Israeli musicians, Omer Nakar and Tal Meoz, joining us. Interestingly, both Omer and Tal are jazz musicians, so for our jazz enthusiasts listening on, we hope you search them on YouTube, on Apple Music, and Spotify at the end of this. Thank you, Omer, and Tal is coming on in a little bit, but thank you also, Tal, for being here with us. Let me introduce these two guys very quickly to you. Omer is an award-winning singer, songwriter, composer, and music therapist. Omer's musical career started at the age of 5, training as a classical pianist. His musical performances have included opera singing, playing the tuba, guitar, saxophone, and harmonica. Later on, his music evolved into contemporary and jazz music. He recorded his debut album, It's Spreading Out, in which he was recorded ACUM's Foundation for the Creation and the Creator Prize. In 2012, Omer relocated to Belgium to expand his international career, where he performed at music festivals and started working on his EP, How to Be a Man, which you're hearing on the background, featuring a unique mix of acoustic and electronic sounds, which was recorded and produced between Brussels, Tel Aviv, and Stockholm. His solo career also extends to collaborations where he writes and performs with other artists and composes music for short films and advertisements. In 2014, Omer moved to London, UK, where he has been based since. He holds a bachelor degree in music technology and a master's degree in music therapy. On to Tal, who has yet to join us. Tal has lived most of his life in Tel Aviv and has recently returned to playing his roots as a saxophonist in the past few years, playing with Ma Mezet and Carpaccio guitar, where he participates in both performing and recording. Tal has been playing since he was young, as he saw music would be a great tool for his life. Tal is also an accomplished basketball player and has represented Israel at international tournaments, and he coaches kids in after-school programs. Tal is currently in rehearsal, as I said, so soon he'll be joining us from Tel Aviv, and we'll be lucky to have him and some of his band members on today. Before we get into the conversation, we have a very special guest, and many of our viewers would be familiar with him. DCM Jakin Mandelblum, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Israeli Embassy to the Southern Caribbean and CARICOM. DCM Mandelblum is also musical in his own right, as he shared with me that he can blow the shofar, which is the ram's horn used during Jewish services in Jewish holy days. DCM Mandelblum, I welcome you for any opening remarks.
Hi, Nick, and hi, Omer, and very happy to be here. Very thankful for this opportunity. And I think that one of the main bridges that we can have and we can play along when we are building our relationship with the Caribbean is music. Music joins us in many ways, and music is universal. So I'm very happy to be here today. And of course, Israeli music, if we talk it from a cultural perspective, it's very ancient. It comes from antiquity even. And for example, even in the Bible, you can see that several musical instruments were played in ancient Israel. For example, I do play one of them, the shofar, that is still played by on several festivals in the Jewish year. And and again, music is what gives us joy in many occasions. So I'm very happy that we can have this cultural exchange. I want to thank also Omer and Tal for being in this cultural exchange. I want to continue with something really short, and it's maybe a small dedication for what I hope for what I hope can be of this activity. And it's first of all to the people at the Nova Festival, for those who were murdered and for those who still survive. The Nova Music Festival was one of the main places were attacked by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. And I would like this event to be in their memory, in the memory of those that were massacred in the Nova Festival. And among those who survived and their families, one of the main things that is being constantly said is, "We will dance again." And with I think that with that message of hope, I think that we will dance again and we will play music again. Also, I would like this event to be, also some of them dedicated to those who were to the 12 children that were murdered by by the terrorist organization Hezbollah 2 days ago in Masjid al-Shams. I think that there's nothing more playful and pure than the soul of children, and I really hope that everything. I think that there are people who bring darkness and people who bring light to the world. I think music brings light to the world, and I hope that this activity brings a lot of light that can go against any sadness and any darkness. So in Israel, we have one word for saying peace, for saying hi, and for saying goodbye, and that word is shalom. And I think that with these words, I proceed to say shalom to all of those who are with us. And again, thanks to UNIC, to Understanding Israel Foundation for making these kinds of activities, and to Omer and Tal.
Thank you so much, Jakin, and shalom to you. I know you have to leave, but we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate your words as always. Thank you, Omer. Welcome, and as we wait for our other guest, Tal, to come on, I say let's get into it. And in the background is your music. Are you hearing it?
Now, yeah. Or it was,
No, yes.
it was mine earlier.
Well, yeah, it switched unfortunately because I'm playing your full EP, right? I
Yeah.
hope it's not overpowering. So let me just lower it just a bit. Your music is very, very interesting. I think for viewers who may not know, there's a guy called Idan Rachel, and I hear your music, and it reminds me of Idan Rachel's music. Idan Rachel is a very popular world singer. Is that a good way to describe his music? World music. He's Israeli, and to me, Omer, you remind me of him a bit. I just wanted to get a bit into your music and where you're at right now as a singer, songwriter, as a composer, not necessarily in terms of the music you're doing for films and for advertisements, but where are you in your musical journey right now? Are there new albums coming out? What's going on?
So professionally, I'm working on a new album. Yes, for a while now. Um, but personally, if I can make it like that, that distinction, music is something that is ongoing. It's like a process. It's a way of being for me. There is no period of time where I work on music and then on something else. Some music is on a daily basis in some way. Um, so an album is just a moment in time where I feel like, okay, I want to capture these scenes in life, and I want to record them and share it with the world. But I constantly write. That's my way of processing what's happening in my life, what is happening around me, and it's also a way of dealing with things. I mean, that's part of why I expanded my profession into like just I'm not just a musician. Just I'm not only a musician. I'm also a music therapist, because I saw what it does, how music helps me, and how it helps the people around me. So I wanted to be able to offer it to other people that maybe didn't have the opportunities to pick up music or a musical instrument or learn how to write songs and stuff like that. But, yeah.
Thank you, and I understand that. I want to get a bit into your musical therapy journey a little later on, but let's start very broadly now, right? Because as DCM Mandelblum said, music is a very important part of understanding any country and their culture. And my organization, we are understanding Israel. We want people to understand. So we want people to understand how Israel's music both reflects and shapes Israeli culture. And we've been trying to help people understand that Israel is a very, very diverse country with Middle Eastern Jews, North African Jews, European Jews, Muslims, Christians, Baha'is, even Hare Krishnas running down Bogoshov in Tel Aviv, right? So it's a very, very cosmopolitan country. And all of these variant peoples have contributed to Israel's very unique musical style. And I remember once I heard an Israeli musician make a joke that whatever you're in the mood for in Israel, you can find. Do you want Indian food? Do you want Chinese food? And it's the same, I think, with music as well. And our guest Tal is on. Let me just pull him on before I continue. 1 second. I am so sorry. Okay, I seem to can't join him. I apologize. He'll come back on. And in the past couple of months, we've been trying to explain to our members how expose them to the full gamut of Israeli music, from Arik Einstein to Zohar Agrov and Ofra Hassa. So we've gone from the real old time Israeli music to like local, modern, Omer Nakar, Eurovision participants, Nata Basilai, Idan Golan. And today, of course, we're opening up this entire Israeli musical scene to the wider Caribbean audience. And we hope in talking to you and in bringing this understanding of Israeli music and Caribbean music to the Caribbean, we can see how we can make connections between the Caribbean and Israel. So, Omer, you got into music at a very young age. Specifically, you said at the age of 5. Was that your own doing, or was it your parents who got you interested in music? And can you tell us how supportive was your family in your musical pursuits as a child and now as an adult?
Sorry that I keep muting myself. I just, yeah, you know the deal. So at the age of 5, I started training, like taking piano lessons at 5, but those were like set it was a set like training space. But I kind of I was born to a musical family. My dad is a musician. All of his family members on his side are musicians. So music was really a big part of my upbringing and what I absorbed when I was a kid. So yeah, it's kind of funny to say that I started music, like I started training as a pianist at 5. But music is basically my first language. It was there all the time. So we had a lot of instruments in the house. There was always music, and I think I was exposed to so many different musics and genres in my home, which is really cool. I think, yeah. I think it also reflects. I can say that, like, I can make this generalization, but I think it's something very Israeli. This way of how to what sort of music we play and listen to from a very young age, because people came from all over the world and they mix together, just like I don't know, like food. Like you can get so many different type of food, and everyone would tell you that that's the culture. That's the culture. That's what they have to bring to the table. No pun intended. And it's the same with music. Everyone brought their musics from where they came from. There was obviously like some sort of a cultural war about that as well. Whose music is better and who's more I don't know, cultured, I guess. But yeah, but something new, I think in the last 40-30 years, something new started like coming out of this melting pot. Everyone threw something into it. And I guess my generation is kind of the result of it. I think you said you also introduced me as a jazz musician, and I'm not in any way a jazz musician. I grew up with a lot of jazz at home, and for a long time I tried to like separate myself from jazz, but it came out when I make music. It naturally came out. But I'm not in any way a jazz musician. I can play jazz, and sometimes I make jazz, but no.
Thanks for that clarification, because I would have continued calling you a jazz musician. I like some of the things you said there, because everyone always says music is a language, and in me putting this episode together, I actually didn't think of that, and you reminded me of that music is a language, and it made me understand you so much better when you said that, and you talked about your family and this sort of your dad and his brothers, and I was like, first thing that came to mind is, why was there not the Nakar Five, like the Jackson Five in Israel, right? You'll have to ask your dad about that. But I think that's a beautiful thing, because language and looking at your trajectory, Omer, in music from a kid into a bachelor's degree in music, into music therapy, it's like you've just been building your language and expressing yourself more and more. And I'm sorry to the viewers whenever I mute myself that you're not getting to hear Omer's music, but we'll talk at the end of it as to where you can find Omer's music, and it's very, very beautiful. And I love that you brought up this mixture and melting pot of Israel, because you brought in two different analogies here, which is music as a language, but music also as a recipe. Culturally, it's a recipe with so many different bits and pieces. And I think for our members, they would know that we've been talking about the sort of discriminations Mizrahi music experienced, Mizrahi being Middle Eastern Jewish music experienced in Israel. But now today, as you're saying, it's exploding. Mizrahi music is very much the norm. It's in the mainstream. You put on the radio in Israel, you're going to hear Mizrahi music, but modern Mizrahi music. I want to talk a bit about your background now, because both the Caribbean and Israel are sort of cultural fusions because of so many immigrant populations coming in. So can you tell us a bit about your own family background, Omer, and the music of their origin and some of the musical instruments that you talked about there? And I'll have another question after that for you related to it.
Sure, definitely. So my family immigrated. They came from Iraq, from Baghdad. Obviously, they spoke Arabic at home, Iraqi Arabic. They moved, some of them moved in the early 19th century, in like 1920s, pretty much, and the rest of them in the late 50s, like mid 50s, from different reasons. And when they came to Israel, they had to conform. They had to give up their language. They had to learn Hebrew. Everyone had to learn Hebrew from wherever they came from. But there was something very interesting about Arabic and Arabic music. It wasn't considered. It wasn't considered. I don't know, acceptable, either because people from Europe or other places looked at it as if mainly Europe looked at it as if it was lesser than the music that they brought, or that it wasn't cultured enough, or it wasn't music because it wasn't classical. Obviously, it has different rhythms and different um, tones and melodies and modules and everything. So also it wasn't accepted by the in public spaces. They could maybe listen to it at home, something that you do with your family, or alone, but outside there were no spaces for this kind of music for a long time. And something really interesting happened is that Jews that came from Greece, this area, brought their own music, and a lot of it sounded like Arabic. They're very close, and somehow that was more accepted by the public, by the ruling public, I will call it, than Arabic music. So I can tell you this. This is the experience of my family, that they found a connection to their own music through Greek music, because it reminded them of something that they know. Yeah, and then somehow with time, obviously, this perception of music is still ongoing, and there are still arguments and almost like debates and fights over culture, like the music. These cultures like in music. But yeah, it's funny how you find your own way to express yourself somehow in your culture through maybe someone else's culture.
I think, Omer, one of the interesting things about that is that kind of like now, because you are what, third or fourth generation Israeli, that music, even though it's Greek Jewish, it's now your culture, it's now your heritage, just as much as klezmer music from Europe is part of your culture now, even though your family came from Iraq. I look at the Caribbean, for instance, and the black slavery is not something my family went through, but it is part of my heritage as a Caribbean person. So that's the way I look at it with music, especially now, because your family, as you said, the Greek music re-inspired them to the Arabic roots, and now it's all just a mishmash of so many different things, which is uniquely Israeli. And I want to ask, like, what do you play any of the Arabic or Judeo-Arabic instruments, and what are these instruments, or that your dad plays or your uncles play?
We had Kanun at home. I can play it. We also had
Wait, do you mind? What is that? Could you explain what it is?
It's like this Iraqi instrument. But I no, I think one of my uncles had it. They played it, but I never learned it. Also, we had bouzouki and stuff like that. There's more like it's coming more from bouzouki specifically from Greece and Balkans. But yeah, I'm my 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 journey with musical instruments. It was more how can I say it? My journey with musical instruments was more like led by my own interest and what I felt in the like what I felt like I want to play rather than what was there available to me.
I understand that. I guess you followed your gut, you followed your feelings, and you went to where, because I looked at your bio and it's incredibly wow, impressive, right? Because Omer, I'll be honest with you, I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the recorder and on the piano, but that's it, right? And you can play the piano, the guitar, the harmonica, and I forget how many else. So it's really, really impressive to me. And it's also impressive to me that your background is classical. That's what you said, right? It's very classical. But you've shifted more into mainstream genres with your albums. But I would guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you can't really escape your classical musical background. How do you incorporate that into the music that you create? How does it impact the music, your music today?
It's interesting because wow, I have so many stories now that I don't know. I need to pick one. I remember that after I released my first album, I ran into my piano teacher, and I've been with her for maybe 8 years. Russian, like real Russian education with her. It was difficult. And I showed her, and I ran into her. I told her that I have an album. She told me that she's working on a concert with some of her um, uh, students, and she invited me to play my songs in the concert, which for me was insane because we had so many clashes between like classical music and play what you feel like, and improvisation and jazzy songs and more like stuff that are a bit not Beethoven. And after I performed, she came on stage and she talked about the music, and she said I can still hear how classic music is present in his own compositions, which for me was okay. I don't know. It's exactly that. Even it's exactly like, okay, so there was Iraqi music playing in my house. I didn't hear it outside. I heard my family listening to it and talking a lot about it. And for them, it was something really, really important. I never thought that it will come out of me at some point. But in recent years, suddenly, like with compositions and trying different things, I see it coming out more. Obviously, with some processing in the way. I think it's not like a classical like Middle Eastern. I don't know, but it's there somehow, and a lot of other things are there as well. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like you can't really escape all these influences from your past. And one of the things I have to say I notice about you, Omer, is when you talk, you're very expressive with your hands and your face. And I don't know if this is because you're a musician, but I've noticed that a lot about Caribbean musicians and the very few Israeli musicians, very few Caribbean and very few Israeli musicians that I know. I find you guys are expressive, but also very passionate in the way that you speak. That's not to say, a politician is not passionate or expressive, but I think that just seeing the way you move your fingers, I'm like seeing you almost playing the piano while you talk. It's just an observation that I saw. And, you've really made music your not just your career, it's become your life, as you said. You have a BA in music technology, you have your master's in music therapy, and I want to talk about the music therapy again. But before I go on to that, I want to know, because there may be many aspiring musicians, both in the Caribbean and in Israel and around the world, who may be like, should I do a BA in music? Should I get into that? How do you think studying music at an academic level helps a musician? How did it help you? And what are some of the other career choices, someone doing a BA in music, what are some of the other career pathways for them, you think?
So it's a really interesting question, and there is no one answer to it. It depends on where you study and what interests you and what you want to achieve with it. I think the main thing about studying on an academic level or like after high school is that you make connections, and that's invaluable, and that's the main reason why people actually go study. And even if you don't finish the whole 4 or 3 years, you do 1 year or 2 years, then maybe a career comes out of it. You already know all the people that you know. That's it. It's enough. So at least, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. How much money we pay? I mean, if you go to university, how much money you pay just to make connections and like networking? But at the same time, I can tell you about my BA, that it was so eclectic, and there were so many opportunities, different opportunities surrounding music and production and production of sound. So you could really take it into develop it into any profession that you wanted to. Obviously, I came to, like, I studied I studied in Rimon School of Music back in Israel. And I came here because I wanted to be in London and develop it. And London is the hub of music in Europe, I guess. And it was something very. Obviously I'm fortunate to be able to do it. Yeah, no, not everyone can, but you can do it wherever you are. I mean, you can. I know that in Israel they developed a lot of courses like that. That are very eclectic. So I think that's also something that we need to think about as musicians. We are not, and that's also a very Israeli thing, that you are not one thing. You are never one thing. You can't put all the eggs in one basket. Like, you always need to think of more creative ways to produce something, to do something, to be I don't know, to express yourself. They're always like, you can be in a box. I mean, we are now in boxes. I had I realized, but like, you can't put yourself in a box. And it's always good to like try to push it a bit and to expand.
Yeah, and now I have to ask you, because some of your music is in English and you're living in London, which is English speaking. How are you in terms of language, since we're on this music topic? Are you as comfortable expressing yourself in Hebrew as you are in English? Because you have released songs in English as well. And is there a discrepancy, and is there some certain things that you can't express through English that you can through Hebrew?
I think I feel comfortable in the two languages in writing. I feel comfortable like writing in general much more than speaking, by the way. Um, but I think I use the language in some ways. I write also in French, but I use, because I used to live in Belgium and I learned French and I picked it up and I was like, okay, I'm in Belgium. Let's write in French, and it actually worked. Um, but it all depends on what you do with the language and how you experience life with this language, through this language, both options. Um, so I found that when I write in Hebrew, it's much more political and it's much more socially aware, rather than English. I feel like in English, what comes out is much more about interactions that I have with people that I meet. Um, yeah, but maybe it's because I didn't grow up in UK and or any other English speaking country, um, and absorbed all these like things that you absorb when you're growing up, as a teenager, adolescent, as a kid, and in Israel it's everywhere, and I don't know, it just naturally comes out much more like commenting on life, on what's going on. Like, I guess, if it makes sense. I hope I make sense.
Definitely making sense. And now I want to shift a bit into the music therapy. And we talked a bit about that before, you and I. One of the things I've found as well, Omer, is that there's music therapy in Trinidad, and a lot of Jews from the States end up coming and finishing their courses here. I'm a bit hazy about as to what it is. So even though I've known many people in musical therapy, I don't really know what it is, and I'm sure many of our viewers don't as well. Do you mind sharing with us what music therapy is, and what brought you to it, and how do you see it contributing to you as a musician?
So I'll start from the from the end. I think I think as a musician, what music therapy is everything that we do with music. Um, it's absolutely everything. It's since the moment that we are born, we already communicate musically with our mothers, and then we grow up and we communicate musically with our group and with our community and with our country and everyone around us. We really base our identity around music, and this is how we communicate between us and build bridges between us, and also create our own story and share it with the world, and also remind ourselves who we are, where we come from. We share stories through generations like that, and I think, and I saw how I use music, and I realized that it's very therapeutic. Before I studied it, I realized that it is in itself writing songs and composing and playing, and then playing with others. It's very, there was a real sense of almost like a psychological process that we're doing, musicians that play together. It's something, you need a lot of skills, interpersonal skills for that. And I saw also how other musicians around me, what life processes they went through music, but also with the music. So I really wanted to harness that and take it to and spread it out. Spread this gift that I've been given, and others around me, and give it to people that like offering to people that not necessarily had the means and opportunities to do so. So then professionally, what music therapy is um, mixing, bringing psychological theories, psychotherapy into music. In the UK and Europe, most of the music therapy, unlike like the US, it's very generalized, but that's mostly how we look at it. It's very active. So music therapy is all about expressing yourself. It's all about improvisation and or jamming. So we have instruments and we play together. We don't have to talk. And maybe the patient that you work with can't talk at all, and they don't have the abilities to speak, but they can still somehow create sound and music. So you work with that. It's all about finding a way through musical means to express yourself. Sometimes we can write songs and explore life experiences through writing, and then compose music to it, and then you can also maybe think of performing it to people, and then you're like opening up and sharing yourself and your experience with other people through music. So music actually allowed this process to happen. Yeah, I can talk for hours on music therapy. There are so many there's so many ways of using it, because it's such a rich music is such a rich subject. So yeah, stop me at some point.
I don't mind you speaking about it. It's very interesting because it goes back to what you were saying about music being a language and helping people to express themselves in different ways. Let me shift a little bit now. You have a song called "The House of God," and I'm not sure how you grew up, if you grew up religiously or anything, but like, how does music express you spirituality or your views spiritually? How does it connect to your Judaism, or even if you are not connected to Judaism, how does music factor into your, I don't even want to say religious outlook, because Judaism is more than just religion, but how does it factor into your spirituality, your connections with your ancestors, all of these things, which is a big thing I'm asking, but I hope you can answer.
It's very big, but I think it's a very big topic. I grew up in a family that was very religious, very religious. But with time, somehow, even my parents, they learned to they learn, they realized that the essence of religion is actually spirituality, and you can take it out and maybe somehow I don't know if choosing is the right word, but like you can take what feels right and what's important out of that, and maybe some traditions are not right for you or more right for you. So you can really play with it as long as the spirituality is still there. There was a moment in life that I got really into religion as a how do you call it, as a organized organized something. So but what the interesting thing is that I realized how much music had into it, in it. Sorry, I again, you're talking to a musician, so don't expect like to have like one line of of thought. So and then I got into studying Judaism more, and I met with some rabbis, and I spoke to them about the Bible and how to read it and everything. And even when you were 13 and you were like studying what's for the bar mitzvah, you realize how much music is embedded in the Bible. It's all music. There are all the words are surrounded by notes, not musical notes as we in Europe like understand it, but how you're supposed to, we call it te'amim, and it's all how you're supposed to sing it, and it's really inside of it. And I think having this link made me realize that music is in the base of everything. So for me personally, now we're talking personally, not historically or anything. For me personally, music is spirituality, and this is how I connect with myself and with the world, and that's basically it. I mean, we don't really need language. I mean, I don't. Language is not necessarily it's helpful. It's a technology that we have, and it's amazing that we have it and developed it. But I think something even language is based on musical on tone and voice, and you understand, and feelings, and everything is based on like those waves. So it's inside it, all these like musicality is like embedded in everything. So I think it's that.
Omer,
Like what makes us human.
it makes a lot of sense, and you had my mind going on multiple different levels with that answer, because I think a lot of people forget like the role that the Chazan plays in Jewish services, which is huge. You know, you actually train to be a Chazan and how to do the melodies and how to sing. And then there's a melody for Mizrahi Jews and for Ashkenazi Jews. And it took me back as you were speaking to like the purpose of the angels with God is to constantly be singing to him. And, you know, like songs, very profound songs like why am I blanking? The David song. I don't know why I'm blanking from it right. I guess it's because your song is playing in the background. But you know, there's a power of music in religious, not worship, but in religious connection to God. And I think that's a really powerful thing that you've brought up there, which had my mind going multiple miles per hour as you were speaking as well. I want to ask you now about, away from everything, is to position it back to what happened on October 7th, which Jakin spoke about. And I've asked you this question before, Mara. I asked you, how did it affect you? Where were you when it happened? But I want to ask you, as a musician, how did you feel knowing what was happening at the Nova at the Nova Peace Festival? How did that, was that a different feeling for you as a musician, knowing these kids are gathered to celebrate and to dance and to sing? And how did it hit you as a musician, not as an Israeli, not as a Jewish person?
I think it's a it's a loaded question. It shut me off. I was 3 months before that, 3 4 months, no, maybe more, 6 months before that, or 5 months, doesn't matter. You can edit it after. I picked up the clarinet because I felt connection with it for the past 2 years. For a long time I felt like, well, like I really wanted to pick up the clarinet, and something in me, I don't know. My mom said that it's the Jewish soul that spoke, and you need to learn to pick up the clarinet, because clarinet is such a Jewish instrument in sound, klezmer, and everything. Also very jazzy. So I picked up the clarinet and I started learning how to play it, and I taught myself, and then in October, right when I felt like, I don't know, I got somewhere with this instrument, and I really connected with it and started a relationship with it. After 7th of October, I couldn't pick it up, and I still haven't picked it up. I can't. I make music. I can play piano. I can play guitar, but clarinet itself, I cannot. I can't. And I know that it's somehow related. Related to it is just like one specific example of how it affected me as a musician. Yeah. That's just...
I know it's a hard. I'm asking you to compartmentalize pieces of who you are, to take away your Israeliness and to take away your Jewishness, and I appreciate that answer, because it was a very difficult question I posed to you there. But one of the things I think for many of our listeners is that they won't be able to fully understand what the Nova Peace Festival was. In the Caribbean, we have also a very strong French influence. So we call parties fêtes, fêtes in French. So we say, oh, we're going to a fête. And it's the same sort of feeling, I think, whether it's a fête or a rave in Israel or just a music festival, Woodstock, it's the same feeling that connects people throughout all of these. And I want Caribbean audiences to understand that. And is that October 7th and Nova was a feeling of people just coming together to feel good. Let's dance, let's sing, let's enjoy ourselves. And I personally, Omer, I'm not a rave goer. I don't like that kind of music, so I'd stay away from it. Have you been to any sort of music festivals? And can you share with our audience the feelings of going to those festivals, how what the connections and what it's like being at a festival in Israel, a music festival in Israel.
So it's funny because I've never been to such a festival as a festival goer. I only went as a performer, so I can only speak about it from my this perspective. Um, but I guess there is this real sense of connectedness, and you feel it as a musician. You feel that people come together to experience music together and share this moment together. Um, yeah, I think it's I think it's all about that. Yeah, I think there's something very uniting with music that really brings people together somehow. It's much more deep than that, but um, yeah.
Omer, that's fine. And can you tell me now, because you said you went in as a performer,
I
were you
will
singing? Yeah, go ahead.
wait. I will also add to it that it's maybe some. I think it's the same with religious ceremonies that music is somehow how we bring everything together. I'm just thinking about like holidays or like bigger festivals that we have outdoors. That the whole community is coming and music is really it's this kind of feeling, something religious almost, but it's spirituality. It has nothing to do with religion as again as a but this quality of music when how it affects us human beings. It's very much that.
I appreciate that expansion because I'm going to ask you now, as a performer, were you singing your songs at the music festivals that you went to? Was it your songs? Yeah.
Sometimes my instrumentalist. So yeah, so.
So my question is, as a performer and going there to a music festival, how do you hype yourself up when you go to a music festival? And it's you're part of a band or you're singing for yourself. How do you connect with the audience? How do you feel them when you're performing? Is it that they sing along with you, or is there anything special that makes you connect with the audience?
So all of the above. It's singing together or allowing other people to sing instead of you. But I think the most powerful thing that I ever felt was that when I performed in a festival in Belgium, and I performed back then. It was before the English EP was released, so I had songs in English and I sang them, but I also sang a lot of songs in Hebrew, and to see also experience it in England, but it wasn't as big. So it's amazing to see how language, the actual language, is not a barrier between people and connecting with the music. If anything, it's maybe more interesting for people. And there is another layer of songs that they can understand on a non-verbal way when you sing in a language that they don't understand. And it really happens, and it's amazing to experience it. It's absolutely amazing because I had a lot of I wasn't very confident about how my music, my Hebrew music would be perceived outside of Israel. But it's happening. Some people go to sometimes I meet people and I give them my Spotify, and then they come back to me after a few days or a few weeks, and they tell me, oh, this song is my favorite song, and it's actually a song in Hebrew. It's very powerful.
It's powerful, but it's also very applicable, because I'll tell you, my Hebrew is not the best today. It was even worse many years ago. And many years ago, I could sing Derech HaShalom, every word, on point, with an Israeli accent. I could sing Boy Natsov, Randanker. I could sing all these songs in Hebrew. And then as my Hebrew improved, I was like, I know what that means. You know, like these things. So the language is never a barrier with music. Omer, I know that that we are nearing the end. I don't want to keep you back as well. And Tal unfortunately didn't come on, so maybe we'll have to do a follow up with Tal and his band. But I do want to ask you a couple final questions. One of the final questions I want to say is, like Israel, the Caribbean also has a very strong and impactful music industry. And who knows, maybe someday you will come here and you will collaborate with Caribbean artists and you'll make some Israeli Caribbean fusion music, maybe someday, right? But we're trying to build this bridge between the Caribbean and Israel. And for many Caribbean folks, Israel is just this exotic, far off Middle Eastern country. If you had to tell a Caribbean audience what Israel was to you in terms of your music, or even outside of your music, what would you like them to know about Israel?
Sorry, you have to ask again because I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. It's your music is overpowering me right now in the background. I was saying, if you had to let Caribbean audiences know what Israel is to you, what does Israel mean to you, especially as an expat Israeli now living in London, what does Israel mean to you? And you don't even have to think about the Caribbean audience, so it's good I'm getting to reframe this. What does Israel mean to you, Omer, as an Israeli who's not in Israel right now?
Oof. What is Israel to me? Israel is uh, Israel is a home. It will. I mean, it's. I don't know how to answer that. I can't. It's a home, I guess. But it's very complicated home. Not sure that. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It's. But yeah. It's. Yeah. It's quite a tough question.
But that's the answer. It's home. It's your home, and I think that's the right. There's the right or wrong answer, but it's it's a very summarized version of that's home. I'm sure when you enter Ben Gurion and you're walking down and the rampway that everyone has to take a picture of. I'm back in Israel, and you see "Welcome to Israel." You know that there's a certain feeling that you have that you won't have going to Brussels or coming to the UK, because you can get shawarma and I don't know what else you eat, but you're not a vegetarian, or you're a vegetarian.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. There you go. So yeah, shawarma.
I'll give you. I will answer that in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like asking someone to tell about his family, or like the house that he grew up in. I'm sure that a lot of people would have conflicting experiences and views on their families and how they grew up. It's home. It's a home. You might have had, I don't know, problems with your dad, with your mom, with both of them, neither of them, everything. It's so complicated. Relationships are so complicated. Families are so complicated. It's never good or bad. So I think that's a way to describe how I feel about Israel. It's very complicated. It's still home. I could never. I was born there. And I don't want to take it out of me. And I'm in love with this place, but also it comes with so many emotions and fears and worries and everything. So
I totally understand. Now I want to leave the viewers with some recommendations from you as to who are your favorite Israeli artists that you would and say it very slowly so they can do the searches, the names of any or of bands or Israeli artists that you love.
that I love. Okay, so I'm a bit romantic.
Okay.
I have a lot of like 60s and 70s and stuff like that. But I will start with someone that is actually, his name is Dudu Tassa. Dudu Tassa, and is also Iraqi Jew. And the last decade or so, he really transitioned into something interesting. He brings a lot of Iraqi music and Arabic music, and he's doing it in a very modern way. Really cool. It's just a great musician, I think, a singer and a writer and everything. But so him. I love Chava Alberstein, who is like, I don't know, our Johnny Mitchell and Bob Dylan together. She's a great writer and a performer. Who else? There's so many. I really love Nina Tayev. She's an amazing singer. I think she's an amazing singer. Amazing singer. Really amazing voice. Who else? How many do you want? I feel like I need to go to my Spotify now. So difficult. Memory never serves you when when you need it. Yeah, I think I will go with these three. I don't know. I think I gave a bit of very different things, so it's good. It's good enough.
Yeah, it's good, and it's good that you mentioned Nanette because she's one of my really good friends. So I'm going to tell her about this. I'm joking. I do not know Nanette, but she is a profound. I mean, was it The Voice that she won in Israel? Was it The Voice?
She won the first version of American Idol in Israel.
Right. Okay.
Nolad. She won it like maybe 20 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah.
They pushed her to be very poppy. And she released an album that she doesn't really stand behind anymore, and she really transitioned into this like rock and roll songwriter, very very rough. She does it amazingly. It's a really interesting story of a musician who's really finding his own voice. But it's all because it was so big, and she became so famous, like in a second.
Overnight. Yeah.
Everyone saw. We all observed her transitioning, her process, everything, all her struggles, and it was really interesting.
Yeah. Omer, I don't know if we can end with. I don't know if you have your guitar with you. If you'd like to sing a song for us, if you'd like to share your music with us, and if not, that's fine. I can tell people where to find you. But do you think you would want to share a song with us?
I can play a song.
Okay, then let's go for it.
Yeah. I hope that it will work. Let's try. Can you hear that? So this song is called Nashikot Ve'egrofim, which means kisses and fists. לא ידעתי שאהבה תלויה, על קצה חוט השערה תלויה במצבי הרוח שמשתנים. כמו ענן מעל הים, נסחף ונעלם, הוא רגע פה ורגע שם. וכל מה שיש לנו זו רק גלויה של זיכרון ישן, כמו עקבות על חוף הים שנשארות ונמחקות עם הזמן. ביד ימין נותן אגרוף, בשמאל הוא מלטף לאט לאט את הפצעים, ובין לבין בונים גדר שמפרידה בין מה שעשו. הלב הוא שטח צבאי סגור, וכל מה שיש לנו זו רק פיסה של אדמה צמאה, רק חתכים וחתכים נראים קשים כמו אבנים חולקים נשיקות ואגרופים, זה כל מה שיש לנו, זה כל מה שיש.
Omer, thank you so much. On behalf of our audience, I mean, this is a free mini concert that they got. They didn't even have to pay for it, so I hope that they appreciate this. And Omer, a blessing for you is that we see you perform in the Caribbean at some point, that we see you here, that you get to connect with the audience who's listening to you one-on-one. For any of the Caribbean audiences who are in the UK, and if ever Omer is performing, I hope you get to see him in person. Omer, can you tell our viewers where they can find your music, so they don't have to see you in person right now?
Sure, it's on Spotify. You can just search my name and you'll find it. And also on YouTube, or videos and albums. Yeah.
And also Apple Music, because that's where I have you. See, I should be your manager or your publicist.
Yeah.
Omer,
It's on Apple Music as well. So
Omer, thank you so much. To our viewers, I hope that this conversation left you with a better understanding of Israel through music, and through specifically the musician Omer Nakar. Well, he's not just a musician, as he said, he's so many things. Omer, it was a pleasure to have you here. It was an honor to have you share so much with us. And, unfortunately, Tal didn't come on. He came on, but he got stuck. But hopefully for our viewers who are looking forward to Tal, we'll have a follow-up with Tal as well. Omer, thank you so much. And it is late in the UK, so have a good night, or Laila Tal in Hebrew.
that.
And we'll speak soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.